Brave warriors of Germania against Rome. Chapter 1. The Winds of War. In the year 58 BC, a distant roar echoed through the forests of Germania, where a conflict that would forever alter the course of history was brewing. The Roman Empire, a colossal and expanding power, had set its eyes on the lands beyond the Rhine River. To the north, the Germanic tribes, a collection of diverse and powerful peoples, stood defiant in the face of the growing Roman threat. It was in this turbulent time that the story of the brave warriors of Germania began to unfold. The Romans, led by the ambitious general Julius Caesar, had already conquered Gaul, modern-day France, and were eyeing the lands across the river. Caesar sought to extend Roman influence, bringing the tribes of Germania under Roman control. Yet, what he failed to understand was that the Germanic tribes were not like the others he had faced. Fierce, proud, and stubborn, the Germans had been living in their dense forests and expansive plains for centuries, and their warriors were ready to protect their lands at any cost. The Germanic tribes, united by a shared culture but divided by rivalries, would need to set aside their differences if they were to stand a chance against the might of Rome. Among them, a legendary figure emerged, Arminius, a young warrior of the Cherusei tribe. Raised in Rome as a hostage, he had been trained in Roman military tactics, learning the ways of the legions and the art of warfare. But when he returned to Germania, his heart burned with a desire for revenge. He would unite the tribes not as their conqueror, but as their champion. The fate of his people rested in his hands. Chapter 2. The Gathering of the Tribes. Arminius's journey was not one of immediate success. When he first returned to his homeland, the Germanic tribes were fragmented, each with its own leadership and customs. The tribes that made up the region were proud but disorganized, and many were reluctant to join forces. Arminius, however, was no stranger to the art of diplomacy. He knew that in order to stand against Rome, the tribes would need to unite under a single banner. He began by first seeking to form alliances with the most powerful tribes of Germania, the Cherusei, the Chatti, and the Bructeri. He played to their pride and shared history, reminding them of the common enemy they faced in the Roman Empire. Slowly, Arminius forged a coalition of the fiercest warriors in the region. Some tribes, such as the Cherusei, trusted him fully, for he was their own blood, raised as a Roman and now returning as their savior. Others, like the Chatti, were more skeptical, but in the face of Roman encroachment, they saw little choice but to join. As the alliances were made, the Germanic tribes began to train and prepare for war. Arminius, with his knowledge of Roman military tactics, began to devise a strategy that would exploit the legion's weaknesses. The Romans were known for their discipline and power, but they were vulnerable in unfamiliar terrain. The dense forests and swamps of Germania were a far cry from the open battlefields of Gaul. Arminius knew that the forests would be his allies, and he would use them to strike where the Romans were most vulnerable. Chapter 3. The Battle of the Teutoburg Forest. The Roman Empire had long viewed Germania as a land of untamed barbarians, a region to be conquered and subdued. In 9 AD, the Romans decided it was time to crush the tribes and bring the area under Roman rule once and for all. Led by the Roman general Publius Quinctilius Varus, 3 Roman legions, along with auxiliary troops, crossed the Rhine River and marched into the heart of Germania. The Roman forces were well-trained and confident in their superiority. They had encountered various barbarian tribes before and had come out victorious. But the Germans were not like the others. Arminius had carefully planned his revenge, and he knew that this Roman expedition would be his moment to strike. The Romans marched through the dense Teutoburg forest, unaware that they were walking into a trap. Arminius had led the Romans deep into the forest under the guise of providing intelligence about a rebellion, but all the while, his warriors were positioning themselves in secret. As the legions made their way through the narrow paths of the forest, the Germanic warriors attacked with brutal precision. Arminius had lured them into the heart of the forest, where the Romans were unable to effectively use their formations. The battle that followed was one of the most devastating defeats in Roman history. The Germanic warriors, familiar with the terrain, ambushed the Romans from all sides. The legions, encumbered by their heavy armor and unable to maneuver in the dense woods, were quickly overwhelmed. The Romans fought valiantly, but the Germanic tribes, united under Arminius's leadership, were relentless. The battle lasted for days, with the Roman forces being harassed from every direction. In the end, General Varus, realizing that defeat was inevitable, committed suicide, and the once proud Roman legions were slaughtered. Over 20,000 Roman soldiers were killed in the battle, and the legions were effectively destroyed. The news of the defeat spread like wildfire across the empire, sending shockwaves through Rome. For the first time in centuries, Rome had been humiliated by a barbarian force. Chapter 4. The Aftermath of Victory. The victory at the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest was a defining moment for the Germanic tribes. Arminius had not only avenged the Roman invasion but had also proven that the might of Rome could be defeated. The Germanic tribes celebrated their victory, and Arminius was hailed as a hero. His name became synonymous with resistance, courage, and unity. Under his leadership, the tribes were momentarily united, and they believed that they could drive the Romans from their lands forever. However, the victory came at a cost. While the Roman legions had been crushed, the Germanic tribes were still divided. Rivalries between the tribes began to surface, and not all of them remained loyal to Arminius. Some tribes, including the Marcomanni and the Suebi, were skeptical of his leadership and were unwilling to commit to a united front. Arminius's dream of a united Germanic confederation would soon be tested by internal division. For Rome, the loss at Teutoburg Forest was a major blow, but it was not the end of their ambitions. Emperor Augustus, though deeply shaken by the defeat, was determined to avenge the loss and restore Roman pride. He dispatched a new general, Germanicus, to Germania with orders to crush Arminius and his people. Chapter 5. The Roman Counterattack. Germanicus was a brilliant general, known for his tactical genius and his ability to inspire his troops. He knew that to restore Roman honor, he would have to lead a campaign that would decisively defeat the Germanic tribes. He led a series of campaigns across Germania, targeting key strongholds and weakening the tribes' ability to resist. Though Germanicus won several skirmishes and inflicted heavy losses on the Germanic tribes, he faced the same difficulties as his predecessor: the terrain and the guerrilla tactics of the Germanic warriors. The Romans found themselves continually bogged down in the forests, unable to achieve a decisive victory. Despite his tactical brilliance, Germanicus could not fully defeat Arminius. The Germanic leader, though facing his own challenges, was able to maintain the morale of his people. As Roman forces pressed deeper into Germania, the Germanic tribes, though divided, would not yield. In the end, despite Roman successes, the campaign was inconclusive. Germanicus could not subdue Germania, and he was eventually recalled to Rome. The Roman Empire, exhausted by the conflict, chose not to pursue further conquest of Germania. The Rhine River became the natural boundary of the Roman Empire, and the Germanic tribes remained free. Chapter 6. Legacy of the Brave Warriors. The story of the brave warriors of Germania and their victory over Rome would echo throughout history. Arminius became a symbol of resistance, a hero whose name would be remembered as the man who had defied the might of Rome. Though his later years were marked by political intrigue and betrayal, his legacy remained intact. For the Roman Empire, the defeat at Teutoburg Forest was a sobering reminder of the limits of imperial power. The cost of conquest had proven too high, and the empire turned its attention to other fronts, leaving Germania free from Roman rule. The brave warriors of Germania had won not just a battle, but their freedom. They had shown that no empire, no matter how mighty, could conquer their lands without facing the fury of the forest and the courage of those who called it home.